Hi, gang. This video is to help you with your assignment for LTRE 712 to create your conceptual framework. So this presentation is called Visual Representations of Your Research Building a Conceptual Framework. As quoted in the Theoretical Models and Processes of Literacy, the new edition, 7th edition of the previously named Theoretical Models and Process of Reading, the editors refer back to the editors of the 3rd edition, which defined a model to explain and represent a theory. The representation often takes the form of a depiction of the interrelationships among a theory's variables and make even a provision for connecting the theory to observations. Now, I don't necessarily like this because it talks about variables, which is typically a quantitative paradigm, but if you replace variables with components or elements, then it makes, we can count it across different empirical paradigms. While the editors of the 7th edition acknowledge that models are sometimes represented in expository fashion, most often models are graphic representations. Thus, for the assignment, over the course of the semester, you're going to build a graphical representation of a theoretical framework that undergirds your scholarship at this point in time in your studies. The representation should conceptually and visually capture your theoretical model, which, as your authors also talk about, is a redundancy because a model is theoretical. But nevertheless. And then after that, you're going to write a 2 to 3 page synopsis, briefly explaining and highlighting the model and the interrelationships therein. An effective conceptual model is not necessarily defined by its extraordinary simplicity or its complexity, for that matter, of the relationships illustrated. But we in education like models, so I have one here. And so then part of it, again, you see the different connections between the key underlying components in this model. But what is significant about a conceptual model is the clarity is of utmost importance. Clarity of the central relationships involved and clarity of organization. And that's helpfully determined here by, as we see, the arrows that go back and forth, some in both dark and light. This, I mentioned that education really likes conceptual frameworks. So we have 3 different conceptual frameworks from different colleges of education. The one here on the left is the triple Venn is from the University of Maine. The one in the center you may or may not recognize as the NIU's College of Education Conceptual Framework. And the last one is from the University of Central Alabama's College of Education. As you consider your own conceptual framework for your research, I want you to consider these guiding questions. What are the central components of your theoretical framework? What elements are unique to your study? And how do these elements interrelate? So I have gotten a number of different sample conceptual frameworks from current and doctoral program alums, which they have kindly agreed to share with you. The first one here is from Dr. Tracy Velling, a alum from us, and she was particularly looking at online digital writing and online writers. And so then all of a sudden you notice that in between each of these major bubbles is this feedback, sharing, publishing, critique, and that she had these different arrows to highlight the recursive and interrelated nature of this process. This next one is from Jenny Theriault, a doctoral candidate in our program as of 2019. And so then she was looking at Bronfenbrenner's nested framework for epistemological beliefs. And I want to apologize, some of the formatting is not her issue. It was just an issue of transference from Word document to a PowerPoint than here. But she was trying to highlight the connections between, so the post-secondary student in a classroom to the developmental literacy, the community college, United States of America, how all of those feed into each other to students' strategy choices. And then she had this little additional pull-out box that related to the individual's epistemological beliefs and their relationship to their views of knowledge and the views of learning. This one is a very simple, but trying to highlight 3 primary constructs for zoocacity, identity, self-efficacy, and adolescent literacy identity that is connected to and contingent upon at all times the world context and framework through which they live and exist. This interesting one is from Jennifer Johansson, and she was looking at vocabulary acquisition, and I really always makes me think of stars, constellations. And so then she's looking at how schema and students' background knowledge would be connected to, and when they learn new words, and how it is then immersed and connected to and brought into the schemas. And this last one is by Kristen Walsh, and she too was looking at this sense of nested connections between student achievement, motivation, and then moving to professional development, how teacher administration, their own efficacy, and how all of those pieces then connect to student achievement. So you will have plenty of opportunities to get feedback on your conceptual framework through the course of the semester. You can send drafts by email and get feedback that way. We can discuss drafts during virtual office hours. We can set up individual meetings in person, conference calls, or other times virtually. Never, ever feel hesitant about reaching out. And also, I give permission to my students to nag, because there's lots of things going on. And in evaluating your draft conceptual model, I don't expect perfection. That's why it's a draft. But I do expect a clear indication of a central theoretical constructs that you are developing and engaging with, and a clear indication of emerging and evolving graphic representation of these relationships between the central constructs in your prospective research study. So we will discuss more of this, and we will have lots of practice, but I wanted to give you a heads up, and I wanted to give you a time, something reference to through the video. Take care and have a great day.